Hello and welcome to In Great Company. Super excited to be back with you and happy to have our guest today with us. In Great Company brings you conversations with leaders in business and in your industry to share advice and tools that will help you grow in business. We are here for any questions that you have. You can put them on the chat and you can also send them to us after the show is ended. In Great Company was created to have impactful conversations. And as a CPA and founder of Fabric, I love bringing tools to my clients and to the business community and bring you other experts and other business owners whom I know have a lot to share with you. So today we have Paulina Lopez. Paulina and I will have a conversation about how business development has been redefined, reimagined this after the pandemic. It is, there are so many stories that we can share, but for me, it has been an experience. And I'll tell you my own story. But Paulina is a best-selling author, international speaker. She's amazing. I have gone to many of her shows. Don't miss them. She's also a mentor, a business coach, consultant, and strategist. She's the CEO of the Business of We, and she contributes as an author to today's Inspire Latina and Journey to the Stage. I highly recommend that you check her out. And what I like about Paulina personally is that she is such a genuine person and a great connector and so resourceful. I have known her for many years now, and I am so happy she's part of my network. So please connect with her. Welcome, Paulina.
Thank you, Ramona, for having me. I'm excited to play and have this conversation, this power conversation with you. So I'm excited and grateful. Thank you.
Do you say play? Because I like the sound of that.
Always play. There's got to be about play when it comes to business. Yes,
Exactly.
I
Do
love it.
what you love and have fun at it, and you it
Right.
doesn't feel like work, right?
That's it.
So we're going to talk about business development. And as I was putting together the topic and the programming for today, I was trying to remember how I did business development 5 years ago. And the first 2 years in business, I have been in business for 6 years now on my own. And I remember the first 2 years and the first maybe 3 years going to a lot of events, and I had sometimes events 4 times a week, and you got there and spent 2 hours and sometimes leave a little disappointed and sometimes leave with a great connection.
Yeah.
I never imagined that we would be doing business development and marketing the way we're doing it today. And I think after the pandemic or throughout the pandemic, a lot of us realized that maybe this was the way to do business from the beginning, to do business development from the beginning, or a combination of both. So I can't wait to have this conversation with you and hear how other business owners that you work with are dealing with the business development these days. So thank you so much for being here again. My first question to you is from your perspective, because I have my own, but from your perspective, how has business development changed since the pandemic?
Well, it's interesting that you ask because we know that so many businesses had to pivot during 2020's global disruption. And it was, as you said, it was something that we probably should have been gearing towards years prior, but we were really tapping into the opportunity of connecting in person, which is what I'm a big fan of. My community was an offline community where people came, they met, they connected, and they established relationships based on that. Obviously, COVID has changed the game for many of us business owners. But one thing is for sure, this virtual realm is here to stay. So for those that have been probably putting it on the back burner to tap into their resources on a more virtual level, have discovered that it is a great way to scale and expand your reach. And that's my experience specifically because, like I shared, my community was strictly offline. And by pivoting, even though I didn't want to, pivoting to Zoom and online has been actually a blessing in disguise in allowing me to connect to a broader audience outside of the New York City metro area. So for that reason alone, it has been to some degree a blessing. But it's also as I said, a very good way for businesses to understand it's not the only way. We are still tapping into more offline communities as best as we can. So we should learn a way to balance them both. Because I am still a huge fan of getting together in person, celebrating each other, connecting with that in-person vibe. But I think for businesses, I think there's got to be a way for you to balance them both out and not strictly hide behind the computer all the time.
No, tell me about it. I think we're similar in that respect. I need an in-person event every now and then. I need that connection. I need to see people and hopefully hug people at some point. Uh,
Yes, it gives us life. It gives us life.
exactly. But it's great that we can do both. And like you said, it all business owners, we recommend that they start doing a mix of online and offline, and for just not business development but just also for revenue generating activities. I think it expands and opens so many doors, right? And you mentioned expanding to other states. I was, or my firm Fabric was cloud based from the beginning. That's something that I really wanted to do. So we did have clients outside of the state of New York. However, this now brings it to a new level. It's expected, it's kind of, welcome that you are in New York and you have your marketing to someone in California or Texas. And I think it's just great for business if you can do it well.
Right. I agree. No, and again, it is a way for you to be able to identify where some of your audience is coming from, because with the technologic aspect of it, you get to see where these people are coming from. So it is very helpful.
And another thing that I have, that we're everything that we do, and I'm sure, and I want to hear a perspective of this, but everything that we do has it's planned and it's thought through very carefully. So when we are planning to organize an event in another city or state where we're doing this remotely, but there is an audience potentially for us there, we are looking for the organization, the organizers, or the city that has the audience that we are targeting. It's not just like, oh, let me go and have an event and target people in London and California when that's not where your audience is, where the business that you want is. So, how do you plan that out for your own business and how you help your clients?
Well, the in-person events have been strictly here in the New York City area because we know the importance of those relationship building in person. Now, where we separate the events as far as virtual goes is just to keep it more on the educational aspect where we feature guest speakers. But when it comes to more in-depth type of connections, yes, our in-person events is what we really tap into. I would say for the most part, if you know your demographic is mostly in a different state, then hone in on that. But where it could be much more useful for you is to have different events, segregated events, if that's the right word for it, where you're tapping into different audience based on different events, and not just have that one event. But I am a huge believer. You do one main event where you bring everyone together, and then throughout the year do separate events for the different audiences that you cater to. So I think that's the best way to do it.
Awesome. No, that makes total sense. And you mentioned workshops and you mentioned events. So in order to take advantage of this new virtual business development world, what are some of the options that business owners have to bring and to expand their business development and marketing efforts?
As far as platform or events?
No, actually, as far as what they're delivering. So there is workshops, and you mentioned maybe seminars or the summit. What are some of the others that you might recommend if you have others?
Of course. Well, specifically with the business of we, I've learned what works for me and what doesn't. And I've also been able to identify what my audience, which are specifically women in business, small business owner, minority business women and entrepreneurs, I've been able to tap into what it is that they need. So even though I'm hosting something like a wellness retreat once a year, I'm also making sure to incorporate a business entrepreneur summit. Now, these two events may seem different, but they still cater to the same women because of the fact that we need to balance these things out. So, for example, my wellness retreat in the spring is a great way to jumpstart the year, to get you ready, step back from your computers and sometimes your environment, and we take them away, whisk them away into the Caribbean, where they can not just balance out work-life balance, but also be able to find out what's next for them in their businesses and come ready for to take inspired action.
No, I
Yeah,
love that. And I've been to a lot of your events, and you do come out with a lot of actionable steps and tips, and you feel energized. And
yeah,
I have posted about your event, so I love them.
yeah.
So, how do you recommend someone who wants to start going virtual, a little expanding their virtual presence? How do you recommend they go about it in terms of figuring out? And I know you spoke about how you do it for your own business, but do you have any suggestions on how they can test different options and how at some point they need to figure out what works and what is not working and pivoting again? Any some recommendations there?
Well, the first thing is to start. I know a lot of people, they wait until to see, basically they first see, oh, let me see who's coming into the event before I put it out there in the calendar. I am a huge believer is that you decide you're going to do an event, you put it out there, you market it, and even if two people show up, two people is enough. And you from there it becomes like a test run of sorts, right? You get to put it out there, you see what works, what doesn't work, and then you continue to do so. Consistency is key. If you know you want to create a workshop on a monthly basis, make sure that you're showing up every month for this workshop, again, whether there's 2 or 5 attendees. Now, from there, you get to decide or expand upon whether or not this is something you want to host quarterly going forward, or if you want to continue to host it monthly. But again, just start it, don't procrastinate, and you scale, tweak, and expand upon it from there.
I love it. I love it. And I do a lot of that. I try different things. We try different things with our marketing team and my team, my family, and we test things out and we have fun as we go through them. And it doesn't feel like it's time wasted. And from all
Yeah,
of the things that you try, you learn something.
absolutely.
Yes, you learn a new tool, you learn how to do something differently. If someone gives you a piece of advice, you learn about yourself, what you like and what you don't like. And we were talking about this the other day. Tell me about that. You were saying that you do what you really enjoy doing, and if you can, if something doesn't, it doesn't go with your flow, you
Works,
just
you
let
know
it
the
go.
recipes. Yes, you let it go. But you have to try it first. The only way you're going to know whether you enjoy doing it or if it's working specifically for you, your brand, and your business is by trying it first, testing it out, and deciding from there. And again, we should be targeting every quarter what exactly we want to incorporate throughout the year. So for myself, I know way in advance, specifically the entire year. Right now, I already have my 2022 mapped out. And from there, I get to pivot and tweak and adjust as needed. But the only way I'll know that is if I put it out. Planning ahead is key. But like I said before, consistency is even more important.
Yes, I love that you say that you have your plan for 2022 already. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Do you also have your financial plan ready? You don't have to answer that.
That's another key. But listen, you should listen. We're having this conversation with Fibric, and we know how important financial is. So, yes, let's make sure we remind everyone in the audience today that not just your financials in order every quarter, but also a projected forecast
Yeah.
of income that you want to bring in. Because I'm a big believer that if you know what kind of money you want to bring in, and you know your numbers, you know
Yeah.
where to really put all your time, energy, and efforts towards. Sometimes I'm very surprised with some of my clients that once we put the number on paper and they put a lot of energy, efforts, time, commitment into something that's really getting a very small return. While if they really would have honed in on the bigger picture, they would have been able to do less and gain a lot more.
Yes, and I will add the my 2 cents on the financial aspect. So I recommend you start with your goals, your growth goals, your revenue goals, and then you design your business development initiative based on that. So if I want to acquire 50 new clients next year, how am I going to attract those 50 new clients? Is it going to be a combination of an event like Paulina described before? Is it going to be master classes that I record and then put out there? Is it going to be something else? So definitely your business development and marketing initiatives need to align with your financial goals. Don't forget that. You mentioned we talked about tools before, and I was going to say that one of the we use a lot of tools for to deliver our content and
Mm.
our workshops, and I'm sure you do too. But everyone knows Zoom. We are also now using Restream, so we can broadcast in multiple platforms at the same time. When we develop a course, and I want to hear your opinion about productizing any of the content, because I think I know where you stand, but I do want you to share with your audience because it's great to see multiple perspectives. But for our online courses, we use Thinkific and a bunch of other platforms. There is so much out there, and it's important to invest and
Mhm.
invest carefully. If you need to pay for something, think about whether that is a long-term initiative that you think you're going to be able to sustain. But if you're not sure, don't invest on a platform. Don't prepay until you test things out and you know they're going to work for you and that you're going to stick to that. But I want to hear Paulina's opinion on productizing some of the content. What are your thoughts on that?
Hmm. Well, my thought is, well, as a business consultant,
Yes.
and I do focus on a lot of emerging entrepreneurs as well as seasoned entrepreneurs and business owners. If you're starting, you want to simplify the process. There's obviously a lot of options out there, but not all are meant for your business and your brand. So simplify the process first. Have a solid business model that feels right to you, and utilize the platforms specific for your marketing needs and for your audience without overspending on things you don't need, because it's, again, too much noise out there, too many options. It'll drive you nuts. So simplifying is first. Once you're bringing in money, because remember, cash flow is key. If you don't have cash flow, it's hard to grow and build upon your business. Once you see that you've been able to create a nice model, a nice sales funnel, or even a flow and a structure that feels right for you, outsourcing is next. At that point, you start to outsource and see who's the first person you need, like an accountant. Because if you don't like to work with numbers, that's the last thing you should be doing. So step back from that responsibility, because it is a key responsibility. Outsource that, and then decide from there where you will be outsourcing. But the money has to continue to flow. And remember, you are your brand, so you consistently showing up as the CEO of your business, that's going to be key.
And no, I totally agree with that. I had, for the first few years, I focused on a few things that I wanted to outsource. And then it wasn't until later, the second half of our uh, time in business, that we decided to, outsource marketing and our technology and some other functions. And it is life changing as a business owner. It
Right.
changes the business completely, but you have to be ready for it. I
You do.
don't think I could have been able to do what I do today from the beginning, because then I have been overwhelmed and concerned about the cost. So staging things and doing, prioritizing what you need to outsource first and what's next is very important. So that's very good advice. Tell us a little bit. I want you to share about your events, because I attended Haiti this year. I have been to some of your online events, and they're super charged. You call them, you have a term for it. And I want you to, that
Rapid
concept,
fire.
rapid fire. I love that concept. I think that it's so amazing how you have implemented that and it works. Tell us about that.
Well, it was something that, again, we tested it out. The business that we launched in March of 2016, and it came from a need of, as you said at the beginning of this conversation, getting out there, networking, realizing that some of these connections were just not worth your time. And I realized what was the need, and the need was to really connect at these events at a higher level. So masterminding is a huge component that I incorporate in these events, and more importantly, keeping my speakers, guest speakers, facilitators in a very concise and succinct way that they providing the information rapid fire. So throughout the years, as I consistently hosted these events, I got to identify what worked best, not just for me, but for my audience. And now I must say, it feels really good to know as I plan out my events the beginning of each year, actually at the end of the prior year, it feels good to know that I have them consecutively for enough that the women are ready for them. They already know they're coming. They plan ahead. They book them in advance, and that is a great way to create your events on a business model perspective.
And
Yes.
yes, and I just remembered something. Your events are usually sold out
Mm.
from what I see. So I want to, I think business development and sales and marketing for your core business is totally different from when you do business development or marketing to sell your events. How do you master that so well? You are selling out on these events, and it's amazing because it's not something that we see every day. And I don't want you to give me your secret sauce, but some
Mhm.
tips that we can use for when we do have our events.
The first thing is create community. When you have a community, you have a loyal following, these women are ready to connect with one another at these events. So what ends up happening is that, and it is a secret sauce, is I only open up a certain number of tickets that get for the outside audience that are not part of the community, because I serve my community first and foremost. So when it's time for me to start marketing the event, I'm only opening up a certain number of tickets that happen to be available based on the community that's already registered for it. So that's really the secret sauce: creating the community, opening up the event to your community first, and then knowing how much availability capacity you have left for the outside audience.
Love it. So your customers or feel or your clients feel they are special because they're going first, right? It's first to them, and then you limit the access to the public, which is great.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I wanted to add, as a business, I mean, this is not a model that would work for everyone, but one key thing to incorporate is you do have to host throughout the year events that are solely for first-time guests, and that's what I do every first of the month. So I allocate events specifically for first-time guests, and then I also have events that are strictly for my members and my community.
That's a good point. So do you also suggest that if someone who doesn't have a member-based uh, community, do you suggest that they have events only for clients also?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are your loyal clients, community, and audience. These are the people that are already investing in you. These are the people that you really should serve first and foremost.
Makes total sense. And I have one last question for you. I mean, I can't believe time runs out so quickly, but
Oh.
it always does, right? When you're having a great time and learning something new. I'm learning a lot from you today, and we talk regularly, right? But as we create these events, we have a workshop, we go and organize a conference, and someone comes, someone new joins. How do you suggest we stay in touch with these new members of our community, new potential clients? Because we are growing our communities. We have hundreds now of people that we have, whom we have touched lives. So how do we stay connected with them and keep, in their um, what is it, forefront?
Well, as you know, I have quite a programming of events throughout the year, so there's always an opportunity for them to come back to either a virtual event or a live event if they happen to be in the area. But it's about having that consistent lineup of events throughout the year. As I shared before, it's a monthly event. I actually host virtual workshops every week with different themes, and then every quarter a different type of workshop training, and then twice a year a larger event like the wellness retreat and the summit.
Thank you. No, and I think I do need to have this follow-up question. I think it's just fair. So most of what we have discussed works for service providers, and I know
Service.
that that's your main clientele is similar to us. except for the software and the technology firms that we work with. But do you have any tip for a product-based company that you feel safe sharing?
Absolutely. I do get a lot of product based entrepreneurs, some that I'm so grateful to say have launched their products during COVID. And the key to that is really attending live events and showcasing your product at these events, which is the reason I host the lifestyle series, because I do a backstory and a demo of the product based entrepreneur so she can showcase her product, being that she's having probably not as much luck having the product in people's hands, and the reason why I created the lifestyle series. But with that said, I also recommend you create ambassadors and create those that are going to speak of your product, and it always starts with yours that have already purchased your product and have provided a great testimonial. So that would be the best way to go about that, is to get those ambassadors to be the ones to highlight your brand.
Love the input. So it's just, I love the feedback, and I totally agree. It does not matter that you're product based, you always have an opportunity to show up. And I like that word that you always use, show up somewhere, so people see you not just by walking into your store or going online to buy your product, but they see the brand and, joining the communities in some type of event or online virtually.
Love it.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Paulina. This has been amazing. I look forward to having you again. Tell the audience how I already know how to connect with you and what's coming up, but please share where we can reach you. We'll also put it later on the comments, and so you can connect with Paulina, but also tell us about the upcoming event, which I'm so looking forward to. I am going to be a speaker, so don't miss it. And happy just getting ready for my rapid fire presentation. It's going to be amazing. But tell us about the events that's coming up.
Awesome. So the best way to connect is to check out the Business of We website, which is bizofwe.com. Additionally, our social media handles are Business of We at LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can check out all of our programming of events on either one of those pages. But what we have coming up next is the sixth annual Entrepreneur Summit, coming up on Saturday, October 16th in New York City, in Midtown, 43rd and 5th Avenue, where we would have main speakers, industry expert speakers like Ramona, providing rapid fire, concise, succinct information so you can end 2021 strong, and more importantly, create strategic plans and goals for 2022. I also want to share that I have an entire, as you know, programming of other events. Our wellness retreat, which is every spring in April, is sold out for 2022, which we will be in the Dominican Republic also with Ramona. And that's where we serve 25 to 30 women that pretty much give themselves permission to step away from their environment, their businesses, their families, and really tap into the information they need so they can serve those they are meant to serve at a higher capacity in full self-care and wellness. And then we have the High Tea next summer, which I'm excited for, which is a fun celebratory event tapping into women's leadership, which would also be live in New York City. But I would love to connect with anyone, whether it's virtual or in person, at an upcoming event.
So as you can see, if you're looking for an in-person event, you have 3 coming up here. So don't miss them. I went to the High Tea, going to the summit. I am going to be in the Dominican Republic next year. That was just like, she sold me. It's amazing. So I saw the pictures from the last one. I was like, I can't miss this one. So I got a little bit of FOMO and I went for it. So plus I know Paulina, and I know it's going to be worth the trip. Like it's a sacrifice. Thank you. No, right? What a sacrifice. Thank you, everyone. You know how to connect with me. Year end is coming up. Let's connect. Let's work on the end of the year plans, business development, marketing, sales, financial, and let's make 2020 an amazing year. I'll see you soon, or hear you soon, or you'll hear me. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you, Ramona.
Thank you, Paulina.